friends, it's Cindy Brumbaugh from CindyLeeBDesigns.com, Independent Stamping Up Demonstrator. Today I have a colorful spring card made with the Grace's Garden bundle that has the garden gateway dies, that has the beautiful trellis that I used on my last video in the opening there, and then all these wonderful die cuts to cut out all these images like the fence and the kitty and the little bird and all these beautiful flowers and this little fence post there too. So we're going to start out looking, yep, another stamp set I used on this one, the Sending You Thoughts. That was one of our celebration stamp sets this year, and a lot of people got that. So this happy birthday sentiment really went nice with the cursive writing in this sentiment, so I used it on the inside there. So you can see here I used that trellis die, and then I just went and stamped a bunch of images, die cut them, colored them in, and then built my card. So let's take a look at the pieces that we have here. We're going to be using a piece of basic black, a half sheet of our cardstock, and that is 8.5 by 5.5, and we're going to score it at 4 1/4, and then we're going to be able to open it from the bottom there. And then we're going to have an inside white that is 5 1/4 by 4 inches, and our outside Balmy Blue is also 5 1/4 by 4 inches. All these measurements and all the products I use and the colors I use will all be on my blog post for this card on my blog, and you can get there by following the link that I have in the YouTube video. Right underneath the description, you'll see visit my blog at. Just press that link. It'll take you to my blog. You'll have additional pictures that you can look at and other things that I want to put in writing that you may not see in the video. You can also go in the search bar on the right side and just put in Grace's Garden bundle, and this card will be one of the cards you can pick, and you'll be taken right to that. So those are the materials we're going to be using. So as you can see here, I have one of these really pretty trellises here, but yet I have fence going off of the opening of the trellis fence. So the way I did that was I just cut 2 trellises, and then I just took my snips and I cut right in the middle. This has impressions embossed into them, dry embossed into them when you use the die. We're just going to cut up right through the middle, and then we're just going to cut on each of these long ends. So now we can just save this maybe for something, who knows. And then now we have these 2 pieces, and we just turn them this way, and you can see how, let's put that on the blue here. It'll be a little bit easier to see. You're going to be putting this on the middle, and then these are going to be going on the sides here. So you can see that you want the fence to go like a U in the middle here, but then you want it to taper off to the ends there. So super easy to do. Just take some glue on the back of your trellis, and let's get out our silicone mat here to save our work surface, and we're going to put some glue on those posts on the side of the back of the big piece of trellis. Okay. I hope that you can't see the flickering there. My video light is starting to go. Oh gosh, it's a massive, massive light, and not super expensive, but it looks like it's flickering, so I wonder if that means it's going to go. So if it is flickering, please forgive me. So there you can see we put the one fence on there, and all we did was line it up with the side of the trellis. And then right over here where I just put my finger, where I had glue before, we're going to put some more glue back down there. And we're going to put the other piece that we cut out from the middle here. And we just pop that on. We just line up these 2 areas there and just make sure we don't see any coming out on the sides. And that is essentially our nice trellis with a longer post there. So the next thing I did is I wanted to mount it on my Balmy Blue. Now I wanted to have the equal mount on each side, and I just happened to, now this grid paper doesn't have measurements on, but this piece of grid paper does. So let me show you how I did that. Using my grid paper again, here. When I put my piece of blue here, and then I played around with my trellis, I could see that exactly 1.5 blocks, which is 3/4 of an inch, a quarter, and so, no, actually it's, yeah, a half. Wait a second here, half. So it's half, it's 1.5 blocks. Now, why am I not thinking mathematically what that is? That would be one, okay, so 3/8. Okay, so you're gonna have 3/8 inch on each side there. So I'm just putting some glue on the back of all these fence, what do you call those? Fence slats. It's not the fence post. All the back there. Oh, and we want to put some on our trellis as well. Now don't have my silicone mat, but I do have that out. So let's lift this up, and leaving this in place, you can see I'm going to go over 1 block and then a half into that one. And I'm going to go right straight on the bottom, flush with the bottom of the blue. And you can see I have about 1.5 inches. And I'm going to be covering these with flowers. You won't really see that it kind of went stopping here. But that makes it a nice centered trellis on the front of our Balmy Blue. So the next thing I did is I'm gonna do a different sentiment on here. So we're gonna build up the front of this card. Now, it can be pretty tedious stamping all of these images and then die cutting them. So of course, I decided to use my Stamparatus here. Now, your Stamparatus comes with 2 of these gridded acrylic plates. I bought extra plates so that I had 4 plates to work with. It's just nice because I might put something on this plate and want to set it aside for a couple days, and then I have more. So I'll tell you what, for this set, I cut out fences, kitties, flowers, 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 and this fence here. So I cut out a lot of things. I didn't do the little bird, but I cut out a lot of these, and the way I got a lot of them at one time is I used the multiple die cutting technique here. So what you're going to do is take, say, a piece of paper of what you want to die cut. And then I usually take and put it into my Stamparatus, and then I put an arrow knowing where I want to put it back again. And then I just put down my magnet to hold it in place, and then I'm going to ink up the image that I want to stamp. So I'm just going to pop a stamp set under there just so it gives it a nice, and then I'm going to ink this up, and this is going to be a template that I can use for many of them, which I did about 30 of these of each one. And it really did not take much time to cut them out, because you'll see with this technique, you stamp once and die cut once, and if I die cut this and it's off a little, so I make another template. That's the hardest part about this. So I will stamp that, and then actually I shouldn't worry about this, but nice thing about the Stamparatus, I didn't get as dark on that side, so I can just ink it back up again. I was being a little not as much pressure on that because I didn't want to shake the table around. But there we go. So you stamp your image on your piece of white with an arrow up in the corner, knowing which way you want it to go back in. Then you take this stamped image over to your Big Shot, and you place the die. Now this is the die. You place it right over the image. So let's just pretend that we are doing that. So I'm going to pull out my dies here. We're going to take this die, we're going to go over it, we're going to place it right in place. Now, of course, it was moving because of the magnet. We'll put it right in place, and if you need to, put a Post-it note or a little removable like this purple tape. And you're going to die cut this. Let me put that back there so I don't lose it. And when you come back, you're going to have this negative. This is not to be thrown away, because what you're going to do is you have a perfect image and you're going to save that for your pile. But you're going to put this negative back into your Stamparatus, put the magnet there, And then you're just going to go over with all those scraps of white that you have and die cut a massive amount of these blank dies. You just stick the die on, run it through, watching TV, not even paying attention, as long as, you know, not so easy to do. Like I did 30 of these. So I did all these blank ones, and then I pop it back into that hole. I come back, ink up my stamp with my Memento Black because I'm going to be using blends. That if you want to, you could put a little self-adhesive around here so it stays in place. But as long as you have it up in the corner, you just stamp right onto that blank one that you inserted into that blank hole. And then there you go. You have one of these. You throw another one in, another one in, another one in. Boom, boom. It is an assembly line. The Industrial Revolution comes to stamping with the Stamparatus. So this was super cool. So I did one with the flowers, and then I also made a template that went with the fence post. So you can see here, I have the fence post on the other side of on another plate, and then I put the fence post in there. I popped in a blank of the fence post that I die cut, inked up those two fence slats there, stamped, and sometimes it'll stick. And you've got one of those, and then you can do multiples of that. So if you could have seen the little, and I'm gonna actually take these out here so that they are, now the only way you can save these to use them again is if I keep these exact stamps here. I guess I could play around with it if I took the stamp off. I could play around with like putting the stamp back into the hole. It probably would work, but it's no big deal to make a template over and over again. But as long as I keep those stamps in the same place, all I have to do is put that template back in with the blank. And so I did it with the fence, and I did it with the flower. And then I also had the bigger fence there and these flowers on that one. And then I did the little flowers and the kitty on this one, turned it over and did the roses growing up the trellis on that one. So I just used up every plate I had. And also you could have put a stamp over here. You could have put a stamp over here and did the same thing. So I was so happy to have used that. And now I have, look at this. I have a bag full of kittens, flowers, long flowers, little fence posts, and I have the bigger fences here, and I die cut all these. So I have a whole collection so that I can just whip out cards really, really quickly. Except for that little bird. I just didn't get around to him. Okay, so the next thing on our card is we have the blue base there, the blue panel that's gonna go on this black base. So we're just gonna build up this panel here. We're gonna look at this sample card here. Let's put this over here. Okay, the sample card here. So what I did was I just got out my blends, and these are all the beautiful blends I used on this card. I used Granny Apple Green as my green on all of my flowers. So I just went with one green. I could have probably did other greens because we all know that leaves are different colors of green. But I just made it easy, and I colored in all my greens on my flowers, trying to make sure I was coloring leaves and not flowers. And then I used the dark Real Red on my roses. And then I used the Lovely Lipstick Light one for these flowers over here. I used the Dark Daffodil Delight and the Dark Pumpkin Pie for these yellow flowers. I used the I do believe dark Balmy Blue for these little flowers down here on the bottom. And then I used the the light Highland Heather on these beautiful ones over here. So let's just whip that together real quick. But before we do that, we're gonna mount it onto our card. So I'm gonna get my snail here, open it up, get some snail on this Balmy Blue big panel here. And it's nice, since I was using the Memento Black ink, to use a black card base because it really pulls out the black on there. So there we go. And then we're just going to put our flowers on. So to cover up these corners here where you're seeing the blue here, I just put, and I went down a little bit onto the black. And I put the tall flower there. And then I put another good way to use that silicone mat is to also use it not only with your glue, but also with your adhesive, because it'll go onto there. And if you have any adhesive coming from the back of the flowers, just kind of pull it through there. And then that just went, there we go. And that just kind of went up the side of the trellis there. And then we put some flowers on the corner here, and then I used kind of the shorter, wider flowers there that showed a lot of that nice granny apple green. And as you can see, there is bleeding that comes through. And notice I'm putting this a little bit down onto the black and over on the black there. There's a little bleeding comes through with the alcohols. So you can't put a white card-based color on the front of it. You'll see it on the inside. So on this card, where I do my coloring, if you would have, if this would have been a white card base and you would have colored in there, you would have saw it on the back. So just kind of think it through. So then the next thing we're going to do is put these little flowers on here. Now I decided to raise those up with some dimensionals. Just gave it a little bit of texture there, like the flowers. And I just put them right next to the two like bigger flowers that are on the sides there. Just use up some of my sides of little edges of my dimensionals, and then pop that right on there. And then of course you have to have Mr. Kitty Cat there. And I decided on this card to make him a gray cat. There is a gang of cats. The other day, they were taunting Archie and Lucy and I on our walk. And there were 7 of them in the driveway. I said there was a little gang meeting going on. It was crazy. So I'm gonna pop his tail a little under the flowers to just give a little more layering. And you have your little kitty there. And what I wanted to do on this one, instead of stamping the sentiment on the inside of the trellis, I wanted to use the "With All My Heart, I thank you for all the kindness in yours" on the inside. So what I did was I stamped it, and then I die cut it with a die from the Stitch So Sweetly, and I'm gonna put that on the side of the trellis. And do we think we should pop? I think we're gonna pop it up too. So we're gonna put a dimensional there, dimensional there. I always like to have a couple different samples of what you can do there. Once again, up on the tippy toes. And then I'm just gonna put that right up on the trellis. And then you're getting 2 different ways to do the card. And on the inside, I just stamped these tall flowers. However, remember, these flowers are mounted on my Stamparatus. So I did not want to remove my flowers from my Stamparatus. So what I did, ooh, and I see some black wet ink on there. Do you see that right there? And all that is saying to me is, touch me, touch the white card, ruin the card. So be real careful with that. So I'm gonna put here we go. I'm gonna put where I want these flowers. Now, I want the flowers to be on this edge here, okay? So I'm gonna have to be careful here and see exactly where, no. You know what I did before? I did it this way. Okay, I'm looking at it this way. This is better. I hope you can see it. I want to put it down on the edge. I want something for it to have a leveling from. So the best is to level it off against this part. And then I can see that it's going to fit in there just like that. Okay, now if I didn't want that much space there, I would just bring it over some. The only thing you risk with that is if it doesn't stamp completely, then you might have an issue with getting it right back in the same place. But I'm going to just take a risk here. I hope you can see what I'm doing. I'm just inking up. And of course, I got it on the side of my Stamparatus. And just to be safe, I'm going to wipe that off. There we go. Now, I see that's all inked up, and I can, okay, I'm going to get that off there. I can just now give a good pressure to that. And see, I didn't even have to remove my stamp from there. I'm going to make sure it's got good pressure on there so I don't have to. Because a photopolymer a lot of times will lift up the paper. And there we go. It worked wonderfully. So we're going to pull our magnets away, keeping them away from each other so they don't smash together. I'm going to set my Stamparatus aside, and we're going to go ahead and just do a quick little color here. And I tell you what, I need to look at what I did here. See which ones are green. So this was a leaf. That was a leaf. Well, that's what I made a leaf. I think I made this a leaf. And I made this a leaf here. And I think I made these leaves. And then this was a leaf. That was a leaf. This is a leaf. And then I put a little green down here. Let me see here, that needs colored there. And then we just come back with our light Highland Heather and color in these pretty flowers. You know, I used to know so many names of flowers. When I was homeschooling my kids, we would go for walks and we'd have these books and we'd find out what flowers we were looking at. How did I forget that all? Darn it. I bet if I asked them, they would know them all. Oh, golly. So those are some pretty flowers there. Now, and in this stamp set with all my heart comes the sentiment, I thank you for all the kindness in yours. So I'm going to ink that up off of my table. And I'm just going to stamp, I'm going to level this out so my eye has a horizon line to look at. And I'm just going to get a little more ink. Once I got it over the white, it looked like it was. And then I'm just going to put, I thank you for all the kindness in yours. And then just give it a good pressure there. And you've got that stamped image. Close up that ink pad. And now we can put that onto the inside of our card. I don't want to get black smudged on there, so I'm just going to know that this is probably a safe place to put my adhesive. Because remember, you don't want to put adhesive all over the back of it, because then when you write with a pen, sometimes it will show through the lumps and bumps. So just put it in the corners. My one friend, Emily, always used to just put it at the top. So when I'd get a card, the bottom would always be flapping. And I was like, oh, well, that's a creative way to do that. Thanks, Em, for the idea. So there we go. 2 different cards with all my heart. I thank you for all the kindness in yours. And then of all the blossoms in life's garden, friendship is the most fragrant. That makes any type of a occasion card, but I happen to put the happy birthday in there from the Sending You Thoughts that I'm sure a lot of you have from Celebration. Beautiful cards you can make with the Grace's Garden bundle that comes with Grace's Garden stamp set and all these fabulous dies in the Garden Gateway dies. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me at cindyleeb@gmail.com or give me a call or a text at 724-323-2296. Visit my blog at cindyleebdesigns.com. I like to post a video on Wednesdays, and I like to post on Monday and Friday for sure a card, and in between when there's some exciting Stampin' Up! News or some musings I've been up to. So thanks for buzzing by, friends.